Good morning, Gardenia! Today is Tuesday, February 16, 2021. Welcome to Adam versus the Man. We got a fun show stacked up for you today. A couple really good news blocks. It's exciting, really. I've been sitting on this for a few days, developing this block about governments competing. That's the theme of today's show. Governments competing for your business, for your citizenship, to not be the biggest asshole in the room. I know that's a really tough competition for governments, but they are trying now that we live in a globally connected world where citizens don't just have to accept the government they were born with. That's some weird language. So many things you could read into from that. But Stephen McClure is joining us today. Stephen McClure, the head of the Homefront Battle Buddies Veteran Service Organization Project. Very much looking forward to that. And for those of you who don't know, basic concept on that, we are in development and still pre-launch, I guess you could say, but it looks like Stephen and I are teaming up for myself to be the equivalent of some kind of chair of the board or whatever title, and he would be executive director or whatever title we end up formalizing. So he is going to be joining us in at the top of the hour. And before that, we got a block on the weather again, I guess, before we do promos. And let's talk about and other announcements. Let's talk about the weather because this is nuts. I'm sitting here in Arizona. I got my heater on. I think I'll turn it off right now. Maybe it's time. Maybe we'll keep today's. I was talking about all this cold weather stuff, right? So not only did we have record colds across the country yesterday, and Texas setting records with colds, but it is cold temperatures. But it is still going. And ABC News has this headline: another storm heading to snow slammed south. Latest forecast early Wednesday morning. A second storm will bring more snow and ice. And it was actually right here in Gardenia. Like I woke up this morning about 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock Mountain Time, and it was like just white out clouds and flurries were starting. And then we got about half an inch of snow, and most of it's gone. I got to turn this heat off. It's getting to me. This is too warm. It's it was, and now I'm looking outside, bright blue skies. So I hope everybody else's experience with this has been as mild as ours here in the mountains of Arizona, but I know that's not true. This next story is from Bloomberg. U.S. power crisis leaves millions cold, dark as blackouts expand. And every time something happens like this, all of us homesteaders living off grid get to sit back and gloat over our solar-powered, water boiler heated coffee cocoa mix this morning. Yeah, my power's not out because I brought my own and I brought backup. And yeah, there are so many challenges, and we're doing this essentially on the cheap homesteading out here. It's not like we showed up with $1 million and can just throw money at every challenge and every problem and get all the luxuries out here. We're doing this for less than you might pay for normal cost of living in a lot of places in the United States, where we own this land, we own everything on it, we own the materials, we own the buildings, we own shipping container vehicles. It's a pretty liberating situation, and yeah, I'm definitely going to take this opportunity to gloat, because I'm looking at the rest of the country going, man, you could have at least had a backup. And this power crisis, though, like most Americans don't think that way. Most Americans who live on the grid think that the grid is mommy and daddy and government is looking out for them and will protect them no matter what. And if anything fails, like there's a weird sort of self-reinforcing element to this dangerous mythology of government dependence, right? And it's sort of typical human reinforcing your own paradigm, a confirmation bias kind of thing, right? So if you believe that government is good and necessary, it takes care of you, when you see something like this happen, you go, oh my God, it was such a terrible freak storm. Nothing could have saved us, even this incredible government that we have. Yeah, it sounds silly when you say it like that, doesn't it? And it's like, well, yeah, you could have had off-grid power and heat. You could have been like at least a backup generator. I mean, at least something. I mean, just even if you live in modern middle America suburbia, if you live somewhere that gets cold, it seems to make sense that, like, I mean, that'd be somewhere it gets cold. We're talking about Texas here, right? Uh, but if you live somewhere that gets cold, it is just going to make sense that have a generator for power outages, and have if you don't have a fireplace to heat your home, then and firewood cut and ready. I mean, it's nice, decorative to have a little wall of firewood, even if it's just for emergency purposes, or a generator and an electric heater and a little electric tea kettle, and you're never going to be any more uncomfortable than you planned if you planned for it. So the energy crisis crippling power grids across the United States showed no sign of abating on Tuesday morning, as blackouts left almost 5 million customers without electricity during unprecedented cold weather. To prevent the collapse of their networks, suppliers from North Dakota to Texas are having to institute rolling power cuts for the second consecutive day to limit demand. The severe shortages are likely to continue throughout Tuesday, and the deep freeze is forecast to remain until Wednesday at least. Officials have reported 2 people dead, likely from cold, according to the Associated Press. Medical centers are rushing to administer vaccines before they go bad. Flights are grounded. More than 1 million barrels a day of oil and 10 billion cubic feet of gas production are shut, and massive refineries have halted gasoline and diesel output. Yeah, it really is sad that humans have this confirmation bias tendency that prevents them from breaking out of a situation like this all too often. And instead of saying, what can I do, and taking responsibility, what can I do to make sure that I'm comfortable? What can I make sure to do that my needs are met in a crisis? What can I do to take care of my family? To be able to be someone that my neighbors can lean on instead of the other way around. And instead of doing that, we just go, oh, well, we've got to strengthen the grid. Oh, we got to have, more government, right? And this is actually going back. A lot of people in Texas are thinking, about Hurricane Ike and 2008, and how going back, that should have been a warning. It should have been a wake-up call. We should have strengthened the grid, and you didn't. Well, some people did. Some people, a lot. I mean, and this is, there is a beautiful movement of people in the United States applying this technology and realizing these technologies of living off grid comfortably, and realizing that this can be not just better because of, I mean, there are sacrifices, there are trade-offs in any lifestyle that you choose. And having come out here without a house built, or the $70,000 to just drop like a full prefab home or something out here, there are trade-offs. But with the technology that we use to live off grid, with solar, I mean, even just the fact that you get a hotspot. I mean, I'm doing the show off a hotspot and my cell phone, and they were able to do that and get water delivered and drill wells, things like that, or even just water collection techniques. The fact that the entire wealth of human knowledge and figuring shit out is, a click away on the Google machine, that you can just type it in and go, okay, yeah, if anybody in human history has figured out how to collect rainwater in your situation, or how to, whatever it is that you're trying to do, it's there. But this energy crisis is now a much bigger deal, and this reveals much bigger problems with the global energy system. The United States, especially, certain weaknesses being revealed here. But from Yahoo Finance, Mexico, actually Bloomberg via Yahoo Finance, Mexico blames U.S. as energy crisis spills across border. President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador was looking for ammunition in his quest to cut Mexico's reliance on foreign energy, it would be hard to top the electricity blackouts affecting the north of the country. Mexico reported 4.77 million homes and businesses losing power Monday after imports of natural gas from the United States were curbed, knocking power stations offline. And this interdependency that leaves us vulnerable is based on centralized systems created with government incentives. Now, to what extent they would be without government, you can debate till the cows come home. But clearly, decentralization protects us from the vulnerabilities of a centralized system going down. And I'm not one of these like, everything decentralized no matter what. Like, no, but the balance between centralization and decentralization should be struck by the market, by people acting peacefully, by the balance of supply and demand, and the accounting for liabilities properly and risks being calculated into prices, as opposed to government saying, well, we're going to do it at the city level or this level, and arbitrarily stepping in and making something happen in a centralized, rigid system so that when something goes down, you have massive human suffering. And one of the greatest indicators of the flaws of this system comes to us from ABC 13 Houston. Winter weather. Skyscrapers lit up in downtown spark outrage amid power outages. Yeah. Yeah. A photo posted on social media is sparking outrage as thousands of people across the city of Houston prepare to spend a bitter, cold night without power. The photo, which was submitted to ABC 13 by a viewer on Monday, shows the Houston skyline lit up and glistening in the night far in the distance. The surrounding homes and businesses are left in the dark. The photo has since garnered thousands of likes, thousands of shares, and reactions on social media, many of which include comments full of concern. Why is downtown lit up like it's 4th of July? Surely not all those lights need to be on. Most of downtown is office space, so why is it all lit up when they're asking everyone in Houston to conserve energy to help the power grid? The surrounding homes are not only dark but cold after hours without power and sub-freezing temps. This is not a good look for Houston. Yeah, you know, it really is a sad reflection of the system that you have bought into when you live on the grid, and then you see a photo like that, and you go, the rules are for me, for we, for us peasants, and not for thee, not for the ruling class, not for the architects and engineers of this system of oppression and elitism. And simply by making the conscientious choice to live by your values, to not be a part of that centralized system of corruption that tips the balance away from the power being with the people to the rulers. Yeah. Well, let's do it. Let's make this choice. Let's make this a part of how we shall live and take a lesson from this, like the lessons that Houston should have learned from Hurricane Ike in 2008. I hope you take this as a wake-up call for yourself, wherever you might be, not just to be more self-sufficient, or if you are living on the grid, to have a backup plan, but to really live by your values and see the implications and be willing to ask the deepest questions when you see human suffering like that. And with that, let's get to comment Jim Freedom, and I can unfreeze my screen and see your comments here. Ladies and gentlemen, comment Jim Freedom joining us from Phoenix this morning on your comments. And then we've got some chats here. I thought Steve. Apparently, Steven was. I thought Steven was in the producers club and was getting the links there.
I sent him a link yesterday to the producers club. So
all right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna send. I'll send him the StreamYard link just to make sure. So he's got it. All right. Cool. So what do we have for comments this morning? Everybody enjoying our cold weather?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They're experiencing it. I don't know if enjoying it would be the correct. Good day, fellow Frozen Freedom Fram, says Craig. Low key 209 says 52 degrees. So
Jim, we're still using. I mean, my wife gets to use the indoor shower on the bus, but I still use the outdoor shower. And this morning, just by timing the way it worked out, and some of this is determined by me still getting over food poisoning. Not to, we won't. Don't worry, nothing graphic. But you know how that kind of thing can affect the timing of your routine with certain emergency little emergency disruptions here and there. But no, this morning as I was outside and it was the snow flurry, and I was like, oh shit, it could be getting colder or freezing lines. It wasn't that cold, but I went out and I took an outdoor shower looking out as the snow was falling, and that was pretty cool. And I forgot my towel, so I then ran back to the studio naked.
Awesome. Naked snow run. Top Nug is so excited he fought it. So that's good to know. And Lobo says, "Wait, you're the guy with the humor in the fighting hole."
Yeah.
The other kind of hole, but you know, whatever. We know what he meant. Ben says, "Yo, no says joining a corporation?" ? I'm not sure when they said that. What I don't know. What
Talking about corporation.
I don't know.
Anyway, hey, we gotta have a comment contest today specifically because honestly, I was pretty disappointed with our trolls yesterday.
Oh, okay, all right. Well,
what do you think?
Hey, damn, son, where'd you find this? Smoke weed. Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed. Smoke weed.
Matt says to stay warm, everyone. If that's a possibility for you, you should do that. Loki 209's given Reefer Madness some thoughts. He said we need coffee creamer infused with the THC. And Loki 209 said you can make a sweet cream with a little THC butter in a pan.
I don't know, man. Like I think like where we're like edibles, I get it right now because the technology and extraction makes it more expensive to make a something that because the way that cannabis becomes psychoactive when ingested, it needs to be cooked first. It's like you have to take the plant and cook it, and then you have an extract that will be absorbable through your digestive system. So it kind of makes sense. And this is why brownies is the classic thing. You mix your whatever into the brownies and bake them, and then they're there and they're edible. But it's also chemically transformed. It's a different high, and the dosage is. I mean, if you go, okay, now you can go to a dispensary, and it's quantified dosage. You can say, give me a 10 milligram cookie, a rookie cookie. You know, the 10 milligrams being sort of like one pill kind of dose, or give me a 100 milligram brownie, and I'm gonna eat the whole thing because I'm a heavyweight. But or half, but it's kind of hard to dose and time out. I think pretty soon here, edibles are going to go on the decline because like all these suggestions in the comments, like no kidding, but they're kind of silly. It's like this is how why do this to you can just smoke it, like your ancestors used to do, and like old. Oh, you still smoke weed, Grandpa? What is this? Smoking flower? Well, believe it or not, we have some stories about that today. We've got a couple big blocks. We've got the government competing block, some econ stories, and one of them in the government competing block is the land rush for states where recreational cannabis has been passed. So for the comment contest today, Jim, to win membership in the Producers Club, meanest troll comment, meanest and funniest.
Do you mean meanest directed at you or meanest in general, like just some mean ass comment? Like just trying to be specific. You want them to try to channel their anger in a funny troll comment aimed at you, or do you want them just to say something nasty about the world in general?
Either would work. Either would work, okay. I suppose. But yeah, let's go for comments today. And Jim, if someone has the nastiest, funniest troll comment on Adam versus the Man today, what do they win?
They would win access into the Producers Club chat, which is our private Telegram channel. Everyone on this stream can go to the public channel. It's located at t.me/Adam versus the man. There's a public channel that should come up any second. There it is. That's our public channel. Anybody can join, but what Adam is mentioning, winning access to, is the private Telegram chat. And you can win that by giving us your troll comments or calling in on call-in days. If you don't feel like waiting to win a contest or participating, you can go to adamversustheman.com and you can click on the Patreon link there and see our different levels of the ways you can support the show. $1, $5, $10, or $50 a month. $10 a month gets you access into that private producers club chat that we were talking about if you don't feel like winning access in the contest. So you can just buy your way in for $10 a month. It's real easy, real cheap. It's a great time. It's good fun private chat. After that, go back to the website, adamversustheman.com, visit the store. CJ's put together a lot of really cool items with all of our logos and everything on it. There's a load more button at the bottom of the screen. You got to click a few times to keep going through all of the products. So make sure to check everything out. Remember, if you're a Producers Club member, by winning a contest or you're a better patron and paid your access, you get 15% off and free shipping with everything in the store that we have to offer there. So definitely check that out. Then go back to the website that has everything, adamversustheman.com. Click on the words on the page that say Cigar Federation. That's going to take you to cigarfederation.com. That's our affiliate program here. You can use promo code Adam10 to get 10% off of your entire order. They got a huge, massive selection of exotically flavored cigars. So definitely check them out. Use that promo code to get yourself 10% off. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, visit at the Garden of Freedom, and you can check out the pictures of everything that's going on with Adam up there in Gardenia. And yeah, you can see what he's been up to over the past year and keep up with everything that goes on with him over the next year. So with that, I want to get this comment up here. Listen, I like what Craig said about the rolling power outages. It's a good thought. Sorry, heating your house is not essential, but downtown elite is essential. So I wonder, I'll bet you they didn't do any rolling power outages for the big corporations that use the most energy, right? Oh, we can't shut down this factory for a day to save the grid, but we can let all of you people freeze to death. Yeah, that's some bullshit.
Yeah, gotta watch this or gotta see this against the background of COVID properly, and this whole concept of, well, is it essential? Are you essential? And man, it's revealing. It's revealing. And I mean, as a libertarian, every time I see major public tragedies like this, I see such obvious lessons, and I see pain caused by, not understanding these ideas. And I think, all right, this is the time that people are going to learn, or they're going to see, they're going to wait. And it's like, no, never happened. But it's always a few, right? Always a few. And I don't know, maybe the system is able to push us out and, refresh with new wage slave bodies. But yeah, I hope that people, this is one more thing, and COVID, and now it's like, hey, here's another teachable moment with the power outages, and downtown Houston is lit up, and you're fucking cold. Yeah, wake up.
Private POB says, or PVT POB, I assume that's what PVT is going for, private. Adam, you're a controlled opposition shill. Everyone knows you have an FBI handler, and they filmed you on Epstein's Island.
The ultimate proof that that's not the case is I would have more money.
Yeah. Charles Eakin says your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries. You didn't pull them out now. You got people racking their brain trying to just insult you now, straight up. They're like, Adam, fuck you.
All right. Points for comedy.
How tall is Kokesh anyway? I didn't know they stacked shit that high. That's an old one, but it's an oldie but goodie.
Yeah. No, I mean, I want some serious statism shit too to tear apart. But all right. let's get into it. This first block today is very thought provoking. The first big news block in Anna versus the Man today is about governments competing, and part of this is a product of the globally connected world that we live in, and the fact that it's easy, relatively speaking, and certainly far easier than ever before in human history, to look around the world and say, is the grass greener on the other side? And the other side is the other side of the fence, an artificial line drawn on a map by a government in the course of war and conquest. And it sucks over here because government policy is this, and it's not as shitty over there because government policy is different. Well, just that, let alone not even counting how much easier it is for people to just up and move. Now, of course, immigration becomes a major issue, right? Why let people let's keep people in the American empire shitty satellite regime countries so they keep pumping out iPods and making clothes for us, and keep those little minority fingers working hard. Don't let them immigrate into the United States because that would ruin the economic empire of the U.S. And one of the things, again, I didn't mean to make this totally about freedom of movement, but in terms of the economics, it's pretty well established by a few different studies that if you just removed government borders as a barrier to free flow of labor, that global productivity would double. That's right, world GDP would double if people were just able to get jobs where they wanted to without the government borders as impediments. So, with that backdrop in mind, we can see why there are so many ways that governments are competing for business. And in the United States, we have a long tradition of cities and even states competing between each other, of course, within a limited framework. Don't upset the bigger apple cart or overturn the table for the poker game among the super class. But in terms of, where is Amazon going to have their next headquarters? What business friendly environment are we creating in our city or in our state? Can we attract businesses? And the reason this is problematic in the United States, in and of itself, it's a good thing. But if governments, state and local governments are tempted to change their policy in order to be business friendly, which is like I said, in and of itself, that's a good thing. But business friendly in America today is defined by corporation friendly, corporations who are served by federal government, corporatist policy, Federal Reserve policy, those who are able to get big loans from the banks, that kind of thing. Then we're not really looking at competing to create the best environment for people, but the best environment for corporations. That's still progress because as governments have to compete, even at that level, it's not like they're going to be able to ratchet up corporatism or ratchet up the pain on citizens. Oh man, I shouldn't tempt them, right? Because they can, and they will in some small ways. But the general trend is that if you're going to attract someone like Elon Musk and SpaceX or Tesla to have a plant or an office in your jurisdiction, you're going to have to make life okay for the employees too. So Business Insider has this headline: a senator has urged Elon Musk to move to Wyoming as it has the best laws for Bitcoin and is the perfect state for innovation. Of course, another headline we're going to get to today about Bitcoin cracking $50,000 a coin, partly driven by Musk's $1.5 billion purchase of Bitcoin. And so that particular element is why this Wyoming Senator Cynthia Loomis, has urged Elon Musk to move to Wyoming for Bitcoin laws. But as she said, it is also the, quote, perfect state for innovation. So Musk recently moved to Texas, and after what he dealt with in California with Gavin Newsom, Governor Newsom, with the shutdowns around COVID, it makes sense that even in that basic sense, just, hey, if I'm going to live in corporate America, what city or what state is not going to shut my plants down over stupid shit? Pretty basic question Elon Musk has to ask. So as she said also to Business Insider, quote, we want to make sure that we have a place for people who understand the benefits of Bitcoin to locate their business. Now, one of the things about Bitcoin that's kind of funny here is it for a company like Tesla or SpaceX to put in $1.5 billion in Bitcoin, the laws around it make a big difference because they're doing it above board. They're doing it in the red market, the violent market. They are submitting by necessity of what they have chosen as a path here to submit to the violence of the federal government, to government regulation. Whereas for most of us using cryptocurrency, half the point is, well, no one's going to know about it if we don't want them to. And it's not that it's anonymous, but pseudonymous. And if you want to connect anonymously with crypto, you can. So Loomis sent an invitation to Musk via Twitter after the announcement about the $1.5 million Tesla Bitcoin buy. Said Wyoming is one of the most business-friendly states in the nation. Ever think about relocating? And so there are a lot of places like this where in the United States, and where cities or local governments or even states are basically there to serve big business directly. And you go, oh, company towns. That's not a new phenomenon in the United States. But if you had, a major coal plant, you go back a couple hundred years and you think, well, when there was a town around a major coal plant, the owners of that coal plant kind of ran the town too and had more power than the local government. And I mean, I don't have a problem with that inherently. I mean, the government should be serving the people, and business interests. But the problem is that the business interests of corporations are outsized in how they're favored by the federal government, by the banking policy, and so on and so forth. So, similar story from the Wall Street Journal. Land rush is on in 4 states that approved recreational pot last year. Owners of warehouses, retail space able to charge a premium when selling or renting to businesses in the cannabis industry. Yeah. Remember who won the 2020 election? Drugs. The people on drugs are winning the war on drugs. Voters in 4 states last year approved the recreational use of marijuana. That is likely to launch a land rush there for warehouse and retail properties. And one of the reasons, for those of you that don't know about growing cannabis, is that a lot of the cannabis grows to supply dispensaries are done in warehouses where you have just a big open space it's not like a greenhouse because you're not necessarily using natural light. A lot of these warehouses will have skylights and supplement their light with that, but the price of retail cannabis is so high that it's worth creating a completely controlled, contained environment in a warehouse in a hydroponic or aeroponic or even just a drip soil system where the light at least is completely controlled with artificial lighting. So one of the things about this that's cool is you're seeing governments rewarded for not being big dickheads, right? And there is a legitimate shift in demand. And I want to say that like there is a great sort of economic response that we're seeing here, where money flows where violence isn't, because the drug war is violence, it's coercion, right? And if you say, well, maybe there's no actual violence, but we have a society dominated by coercion, where if you open a business like this, you're just going to get shut down. Well, yeah, it's going to drive people away. And the only thing that I have, as a sort of wrinkle for this story is that if you're rushing to buy land in like South Dakota, for example, and in South Dakota, where our executive producer lives, and they jumped in 2020 they skipped medical. They went from full prohibition to recreational cannabis, right? Beautiful story. And they're still fighting it. They're still fighting. It doesn't take effect until July. And there's still so much government back and forth in all of these states about business permits and how much and what taxes. And I mean, even here in Arizona, I'm tempted to get my medical card renewed and give the government $150, because if I'm shopping at dispensaries, I'm going to pay more than that in taxes over the next 2 years. But as it was in California when I lived there and had a medical card before rec was legal, medical was so flourishing that dudes could walk around with a backpack full of samples, but a backpack full of weed and just show up at your house and sell it that way. If you were a flower smoker, if you were into the fancy edibles or extracts or vape pens and things like that. If you just wanted to smoke flowers like our ancestors used to do, then that was always an easier option. But the other thing is that if there's a rush for land, you see real estate prices going up, and it makes sense where it's targeted. Like, hey, they just went recreational. Let's get a warehouse and start growing in one of these states. And maybe you didn't want to anticipate, maybe you didn't want to look for warehouse space before the bill was finalized. And this is, again, the uncertainty is so destructive to our potential, and you don't see this, right? You might make one or two decisions in your life based on the uncertainty of what you're facing with government, right? Like, well, for me, last year, I don't know if I'm going to renew my cannabis medical card or not, because it looks like we might go recreational in Arizona. And then it happened. I was like, shit, well, now I'm going to be paying taxes, so I might as well have renewed it and not anyway. So I have that little uncertainty in my life, and that has ripple effects too. How much do these businesses that have to pay rent and payroll and taxes and everything else to maintain a cannabis shop, if their business fluctuates even just because of some of this legal back and forth, it could cause them to fail or have to shut down temporarily. And it's like we've seen with so many of the shutdowns with businesses around COVID recently as well. But fortunately, cannabis has been largely deemed essential, at least essential to not pissing off stoners, because now you've given all these people cannabis, you take it away, they're going to be really pissed off. So there is competition here. And I think when it comes to the drug war, I'll just say one more thing, because we have a lot of other cool stories here about governments competing for business and giving relinquishing tyranny and control and giving people freedom in order to the competing for rates, tax rates even. Hey, if you come here, we'll only be 10% assholes. Over there, they're 20% assholes. And you'll have a better quality of life here for whatever reasons. But the next thing is going to be in complete legalization. And we're not there yet, but you look at like psilocybin, MDMA. And I think with the next level of drugs being decriminalized or legalized, things that are, there's this bullshit separation. I'm trying to not use the language of hard drugs versus soft drugs, and cannabis is considered extremely soft when properly analyzed by that. Poor dirt farmer, I got busted for hydro in 2011. Now they want to sell it to me. Yeah, it's crazy. Reparations for stoners. If you face persecution, if you've gone to jail for cannabis, you should be compensated at some point, right? Because you are a victim, you are not a criminal. But the sort of the other drugs that are on the horizon for legalization, psilocybin, MDMA, LSD, cocaine, a number of other party drugs even. But the big ones like psilocybin, MDMA, LSD, the psychedelics that are much more experiential or meditative drugs rather than party drugs, I hope there's going to be, it's not going to be nearly as significant as cannabis, but that you're also going to see, maybe a rush to Oregon, and it's not going to affect real estate prices, but that when the uncertainty around those other drugs goes away, or at least starts to abate, that you're going to see other business opportunities come up. All right, so CNBC, back to the big picture with governments competing for business. Dramatic and risky. And a shot at Dubai. Saudi Arabia issues bold business ultimatum to pull regional HQ offices into the kingdom. Saudi Arabia announced late Monday that by 2024, its government would cease doing business with any international companies whose regional headquarters were not based within the kingdom. What began as a pitch to global head offices has now seemingly become an ultimatum. Either relocate your head office to the kingdom or lose out on lucrative government contracts. United Arab Emirates ranked 16th on the World Bank's 2020 Ease of Doing Business Index, while Saudi Arabia ranked 63rd. So, yeah, Saudi Arabia saying I know this is crazy. By 2024, they will cease doing business with any international companies whose regional headquarters were not based within the kingdom. So you're not national headquarters or global headquarters. You have to at least regional headquarters within Saudi Arabia. And this is a sort of weird manipulation within this whole game of competing for businesses. But with United Arab Emirates right there, a lot of businesses are asking the question: Riyadh versus Dubai. As the story says, the Saudis are trying to lure companies out of Dubai, I expect, and elsewhere. Ryan Bohl, a Middle East analyst at risk consulting firm Stratfor, told CNBC. One UAE, United Arab Emirates based financier, who spoke anonymously due to having business operations in Saudi Arabia, described the move as clearly targeting the UAE and a jab in the face to Dubai. It's a terrible decision, the financier, a longtime veteran of the region, added. It's anti-common market, it's anti-competition, and it's essentially corporate bullying. And so this is sort of the counter to legit free market competition, where United Arab Emirates and Dubai, number 16 on ease of doing business, and this is one metric. I mean, you can look at general freedom rankings and things like that, but in this case, the metric that they're using in this article that makes sense is, what is your ease of doing business ranking? UAE 16, Saudi Arabia, no surprise, all the way down 63. So the story goes on. Can Saudi Arabia overtake the UAE? Indeed, the oil-rich kingdom, the region's largest market with a 34 million population, 70% of which are younger than 30, has attracted a wave of new investment in recent years, coinciding with its liberalizing economic and social reforms. So this is a government that has control over these natural resources, the oil supplies, and is then using it to manipulate corporations, as opposed to, I mean, it's obviously nothing new, but it's one of the forces where we see this concept of corporatism or control of the economy by governments directly preventing and competing with governments working to be more free in order to attract businesses instead. And what the Saudi Arabia government has done, and I mean, you can go back and trace the history and show how it's illegitimate, as a kingdom, as all governments, monarchies essentially have been, by conquest, by theft, by violence. But however you want to cut it historically and condemn it ethically, the fact is there is a government in Saudi Arabia which has unlawful control over massive natural resources and claims to maintain that in the name of their 34 million people population. And instead of using it to serve the people, obviously it's shocking, right? Yeah, it's the royal kingdom, the royal Saudi family that is the effective owner of these resources and is using it to their own benefit, not to the benefit of the people. But in the United States, there's another push, and this is really exciting for those of us who are champions of localization. And with what we are doing here in Gardenia, and seceding from the United States of America on our little 10-acre plot and saying, we want to be sovereign from the United States, and we're going to assert our independence. Well, a big part of humanity moving forward and moving out of the current systems is based on basic Buckminster Fuller concept. If you want to fight the old system, don't fight the old, build the new. And a lot of that means creating new communities, new systems of community organization and governance. So when I saw this headline, I was like, ooh, yeah, all right. AP News: in Nevada desert, a technology firm aims to be a government. And, the first thing I think of is like, well, wait a second. We already have big technology firms with campuses, with extensive real estate and sprawling office parks where they own the land and they're essentially in charge. What's stopping them within that private property from setting their own rules and being a government? Well, don't steal. Governments hate competition, right? And in that sense, the existing corporate framework of a government overseeing a corporation with a campus in terms of local jurisdiction is now being overturned as state governments in the United States are competing and saying, well, you know what, we'll let you you can take that campus. Yeah, we'll let you be actually autonomous. As long as we get to collect our state tax dollars, that's going to be better for us as a state government than you going to another state. So Carson City, Nevada, in the Nevada desert, a cryptocurrency magnate hopes to turn dreams of a futuristic smart city into reality. To do that, he's asking the state to let companies like his form local governments on land they own, which would grant them power over everything from schools to law enforcement. Jeffrey Burns, CEO, and right away I'm like, wait, power over schools and law enforcement. Do you think Facebook's campus in what is it, Menlo Park? You think they don't have they don't daycare? That if they wanted to, they could extend as a private school attached to their campus and say, oh yes, for our employees, we have a school here. Law enforcement. Now, they don't actually have law enforcement jurisdiction, but they have security guards who decide based on corporate policy what to enforce. They don't have cops patrolling these campuses. When a cop shows up, when they have to call the cops or someone calls the cops into that campus, yes, they have to yield to that jurisdiction. But I would imagine that similarly, if you let if a city had an issue like this, and especially if it was a private city as opposed to a purely public one, right? Then if there was a dispute in law enforcement at the local level, you would still call state cops or FBI or federal cops would come in and have jurisdiction over that local dispute. Anyway, Jeffrey Burns, CEO of Nevada-based Blockchains LLC, envisions a city where people not only purchase goods and services with digital currency, but also log their entire online footprint, financial statements, medical records, and personal data on blockchain. Blockchain is a digital ledger known mostly for recording cryptocurrency transactions, but also has been adopted by some local governments for everything from documenting marriage licenses to facilitating elections. So there's a lot of potential here when you get to start a community from scratch and say, we're going to redesign society, our little piece of society here from the ground up. And there's so much potential with blockchain around this, obviously. The company wants to break ground by 2022 in rural Story County, 12 miles east of Reno. And that would be pretty close to here. That's kind of cool. It's proposing to build 15,000 homes and 33 million square feet of commercial and industrial space within 75 years. Kind of tough to make a prediction out that far, but it's nice to show you have the potential, right? Burns, whose idea is the basis for draft legislation that some lawmakers saw behind closed doors last week, said traditional government doesn't offer enough flexibility to create a community where people can invent new uses for this technology. There's got to be a place somewhere on this planet where people are willing to just start from scratch and say, we're not going to do things this way just because it's the way we've done it, Burns said. I love it. I love it. And so he's trying to get Nevada to change its laws to allow innovation zones and have the ability to create all of these systems under a company starting from scratch rather than from government. And to some extent, these companies are able to do this with legitimate creations of value that they have in the from working in the tech sector. It's not all just government handouts and bailouts. They're still benefiting from corporatism. So I'm reluctant to celebrate this as pure and organic and the people coming together to form smart cities from the ground up. No, it would be really cool if we had. Imagine if everybody in everybody who lived in Orange County and all the other conservatives in the rest of California were able to just say, hey, we love California, we love this area, but we hate this government and these policies and the liberalism. So we're going to buy a few thousand acres and we're going to start a conservative city in California with a charter that embodies our conservative values. That would be really cool. Unfortunately, the socioeconomic structures around that, the legal structures, the government impediments prevent what we are already capable of technologically, planning-wise, coordination-wise, and economically for creating. And instead we see, and again, this company, Blockchains LLC, I'm not going to judge them and go, well, how much money do they get from government and corporatism versus pure free market? Because they're doing something awesome here. And this could pave the way for communities doing that. Now, we got to bring COVID into this, but don't worry, nothing I'm about to say comes anywhere close to being medical advice that would challenge the wisdom of the World Health Organization. But Daily Mail has this headline, and this is related to governments competing. And again, COVID being a teachable moment, you would hope that on this count, people would learn something too. Do lockdowns really make a difference? How two U.S. states with totally opposite COVID strategies both ended up with the same result. And this is getting to be kind of a common narrative as we tease apart the statistics, as the mainstream analysts get to look through the statistics around COVID. and go, yeah, lockdown or not, it really didn't make a difference. Mask policy or not, really didn't make a difference. And there are a lot of people who are going to hack this out one way or another. Well, it's this many deaths or this many deaths. You didn't look at this thing on the chart of this. But the fact remains that, and oh my gosh, this is a big I told you so, because I said at the beginning of the whole COVID crisis that one of the problems, why I don't think this is a global conspiracy in the sense that there's a singular group of string pullers managing the whole things globally, because if they did, the response between governments would be more uniform as opposed to the very diverse patchwork that we have today. And as I predicted, that alone is going to reveal the relative effectiveness of different strategies. And we're going to see, guess what? Freedom works. Or in other words, slavery doesn't, tyranny doesn't, violence and coercion of government don't work. And what we're seeing with this general narrative is that the government intervention didn't make a difference with COVID, but they sure made a difference with the economy. So quickly on this one, California Governor Gavin Newsom took a very strict approach during the coronavirus pandemic and closed bars and indoor dining, issued mask mandates, and limited gathering. By the way, this is a big reason why he's getting recalled right now. And it's not just the policies, but also his hypocrisy in them. By comparison, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has issued very few closures and said he has trusted Floridians to use common sense to control the spread of the virus. Now, asking Florida man to use common sense, yeah. Ooh. Historically, when adjusted for population, Florida has had 8,306 cases and 117 deaths per 100,000 residents. In California has had about 8,499, so more cases per 100,000, and 130 deaths per, so more deaths. So if you could be precise, if you really wanted to read into these statistics, you would say the California lockdowns made things worse. But you can't come to that conclusion because there's so many other factors in all of this. But the general statistical analysis, even in the mainstream now, is showing more or less the same, at least ballpark, right? And if anything, right here, looking at California versus Florida, California, worse lockdowns, worse results. Currently, each state is recording between 200 and 400 cases per million people and between 10 and 20 deaths per million, showing a very similar curve over the last 2 months. Hospitalization rates are also very similar, with California reporting 24 hospitalizations per 100,000, while Florida has recorded about 22 per 100,000. Now, this story focuses on, and you got all the great COVID graphs and bar charts and curves, and then you go California versus Florida, and you're like, wow, yeah, shockingly similar, disturbingly similar, right? And looking at raw numbers, as the article points out, California appears to be doing worse than Florida. Now, there are a couple of different ways to look at this, and obviously, like I said, there are lots of confounding factors. Were Italian visitors coming to Florida when Italy was going crazy, or was it Chinese visitors coming to California that made it harder for California? And I think the overall lesson, is wearing a mask, or all these things make it worse. And we've talked about this, about how, all of these policies have negative effects and make not just the economic situation worse, but the effect of the virus worse. Now, if you're touching your face, if you're breathing, rebreathing air, if you're not just overall more hygiene conscious, things like that. And that these policies make this worse. So it could be, though, that they have a negligible effect. The reason California is experiencing things a little bit worse than Florida is that they've had this economic suppression. When you have the economic suppression, people don't eat as well, people don't sleep as well. You're going to be more prone to a virus for a whole host of reasons. And so now in Florida, we see the economic impact not nearly as bad as the rest of the country. Or places like California, at least, where the lockdowns were more severe and the economic consequences more significant. So just a little icing on the cake for this story, because, the weather's got something to do with it too. And I think people being free to move, to choose where they live conscientiously, to build a lifestyle from the ground up is absolutely critically important. And just for overall quality of life, not doing things the way they've always been done just because they've always been done that way, includes not living somewhere where the weather sucks because that's where you were born, or you have some school proximity or work issue because you can work remote. Now, why live somewhere that where you don't like the weather? Just for starters, you know. And I don't want. I'm a weather snob, but the Miami Herald is here to rub it in for the rest of the country. The headline from the Miami Herald is, while the rest of the country freezes, Florida's sunny beaches overflow with crowds. As a massive historic winter storm swept across the U.S. on Monday, unloading dangerous snowfall, freezing rain, and piercing wind chills, South Florida's scorching beaches served as a hot destination for hundreds of tourists and the usual crowd of locals who enjoyed the long holiday weekend by the water, despite the coronavirus pandemic. Whereas in California, and this story's not going to cover, but need I remind you that law enforcement in California, since pretty close to the beginning of this thing, have been arresting people for surfing, for paddleboarding, and for going to the beach. That's not somewhere I want to live anymore, which is why I guess I left California for Arizona. One reason. It's nice to be able to visit a crazy place like that, but I wouldn't want to live there. All right, let's check in with Comment Jim Freedom in the audience for just a few minutes here. We are 56 minutes into the show, so just a few minutes before we get to our guest today, Stephen McClure, to talk about Homefront Battle Buddies. And he wants to get into some homesteading stuff, very much online or in line with the theme today well, I don't know. What's the theme today? Governments competing. It's you know, the title of the show today is Governments Forced to Compete. Did you catch that, Jim?
Yeah, I saw that, and I noticed the difference.
Yeah, obviously we're not putting a gun to government's head and saying you must compete. We're forcing them by circumstance, because now we know that things are nice over there because the government's not as big of an asshole as it is over here, and I can move if I want. So you better stop being an asshole, or you're not going to have any citizens left. You know, just that effect. Man, it's cool to see it in action. This is one of the things, like, I really appreciate about how we get to do Adam versus the Man, and without the the hype of the 24-hour news cycle, that we get to look at these bigger narratives and go, oh yeah, all right, there's something else going on here. And when most of the time when I look at these longer arcs of history, I get much more optimistic. All right, any good troll comments? Come on, Jim. Come on, audience. How are the trolls doing?
You're about as important as a white crayon.
Well, how are you going to draw on black construction paper or pink construction? I mean, how are you going to make a flashy Valentine's Day note on red construction paper if you don't have white crayons?
Is your ass jealous
the analogy,
of how much shit comes out of your mouth?
I mean, we could keep going with this, but the white. I like, you call me the white crayon. If I was a superhero, my name would be White Crayon, because
oh my God, Jesus.
Because a lot of people think it's unimportant and can't even see it. It's censored and blocked out. But you know what? When it's really important, you need your freedom, just like you need your white crayon.
Yeah.
The white crayon. Can I be made fun of that for the rest of my life? Can I be introduced as, you might know him from his podcast as Adam, the white crayon, ladies and gentlemen, Adam.
The white crayon. I don't know if you, that has potential to go bad. Potential to be used against you, especially, I don't know, with your complexion.
That's the point. It's a bad, well, it's like if you're so have you watched the TV series The Boys?
No.
I got turned on to this recently by our friend Eden, and it's this weird sort of dystopian, not quite dystopian, but like modern superhero science fiction. I don't want to give any spoilers. It's a great series, And shit, now I can't even remember why I was referring to it. Oh, and I was thinking about superhero names, right? Like if you're, oh, don't show that scene. Oh my gosh, that is, oh,
Ooh, sick.
that's in the first 5 minutes of the series. There's 2 seasons. I've downloaded and watched both of them. I'm waiting to get a TV set up for my wife and I, and we'll watch the whole series, the first two seasons again. But it's like if you're a black superhero or any kind of ethnic minority superhero, you can be Black Noir or I don't know. I'm trying to think of other corny, racially elusive, or Black Panther, right? Although that's
Black
different because the Panther is actually black, but it's a black dude with superpowers, and so he's the Black Panther. Like, can I just be the White Crayon? Is that?
Oh, there's one. I think there's one I seen on Netflix called Black Lightning or something. That's like a black guy with superhero powers or something. I think I never even obviously clicked on it, but I assumed it was like a spin off of something. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Just to be clear, I mean, I'm half Jewish and half German and blah 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 blah. I'm not trying to complain that like being a disadvantaged minority comes with certain privileges now, right? Like I'm pointing out there's this one like reverse minority privilege, right? I like there's and there are lots of examples of this, but superhero names is one of them. It just came up when I thought of calling myself the Black Crayon. I'm not complaining that minorities get to, in a certain way, brag about their ethnicity in a way that's just not quite as appropriate for white people. I get that. That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any? Ooh.
I said hi to you 10 minutes. He might mean 10 minutes ago. I don't know. I'm scrolling through comments, man. There was a bunch, and I was trying to put some up, but
All right. Well,
Fuck
unless you have,
DSS says Hulk smash that like button, folks, please, and thank you kindly. If you don't mind, it really helps. Poor dirt farmer sent me. So I was looking for. Here it is. This is the quote. This is the one I was looking for before we get to our guest, which I know we're about to because we're at the top of the
is
hour.
he ready? I don't see any. I don't
He's
see
backstage. He's
Okay.
backstage and ready. Yeah, so we're good. But before we get to him, Craig, when you were talking about Saudi Arabia not doing business unless their headquarters, blah blah blah, I like what he said here. So is the military-industrial complex moving to Saudi, or will they make an exception?
Well, our next news block today is the military update. And we've got from American military news: rocket attacks on U.S. coalition forces in Iraq, injures U.S. troop, kills civilian contractor. Now, there's an interesting COVID intersection here. COVID-19 dims job prospects, so young people sign up for the military. That's Wall Street Journal. And then politicians want answers about National Guard's lengthy DC deployment. I don't know. Should we get into these with Stephen or save them for after our interview today? We'll see if Steven's listening. We'll give him the option if he wants to get it. We have a fun little military update block today, and then our econ update and our grab bag. Hopefully, we'll get to if Steven can say his piece here in 30. We'll give him 30 minutes, no problem. All right. So, any other critical troll comments? I think the White Crayon. You're about as important as I've never heard that before. That's our leader right now.
What kind of person loads a shotgun in DC on video, dances to Jefferson Memorial, arrested in Phil for dope, gets arrested repeatedly at the White House for taking video? Troll attempt fail.
Yeah, you guys are too nice. Like, and by the way, like the troll comments. I mean, was it small minds talk about people, right? Big mind, whatever, talk about ideas. Like I appreciate the personal trolling and stuff, and there are people who occasionally like have legitimate trolled me, just like harassing for stupid like I'll have one account on Twitter that like latches on to one weird accusation from the past and just like spam me with it for a few months and then give up, and it's like no, that's just stupid and boring and old, and it's annoying because it does further negativity and drive people away from me in this message, but it's not like it's not worth engaging with. What I really like are the troll comments about libertarianism itself. That raise be mean spirited and funny, sure, but the point is that they raise deeper criticisms about that which is important to us, that this worldview that we share. So,
Right.
oh, Steven says he wants to get into these stories, I believe, anyway. But he is ready now. All right, so
Last one. Brian Johnson thinks his computer is acting really slow. He thinks he's got Slovid from Bill Gates.
oh, Slovid. Oh, that's such a cool little like verbal rhetorical trick. I wonder if we can come up with a better application for that term. Slovid is the virus that Bill Gates packages with Windows. That could work. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now is Stephen McClure, Navy, Afghanistan, Bronze Star combat veteran, and incoming executive director of Homefront Battle Buddies, longtime civil disobedience activist, most famously recently for his work as a pastor disobeying COVID guidelines in Georgia, facing persecution, doing a great job in the tradition of some of the activism of my own past that I value the most, of interacting with cops and the legal system, leveraging his voice and his freedom and his rights to make the world a better place for everybody else. Stephen, morning, brother. How you doing?
I'm not a fucking statist, and that was the most statist bullshit I've ever heard in my fucking life. Damn. Damn. So, there are a few things I want to talk about. First of all, Craig is on today. I've seen a few of his comments. Everybody needs to be like Craig, because Craig has donated to Homefront Battle Buddies.
All right.
Yeah. So we're looking at about a $2,000 goal. We have some stuff we need to get done, legal stuff and website stuff. So that initial setup fee's $2,000-ish. So we're $100 there. Thanks, Craig. You rock. Be like Craig, people. So that's kind of where we're at with that. We have to spend money, give the government money so that they recognize us as a nonprofit so that we can keep the rest of our money.
Yeah. No, hold on. Let me jump in on this one, Stephen, real quick, because I've done this before. And it is so antithetical to libertarianism to not only ask for permission for something that you have a right to do, but to give money as you're asking for permission to do it, right? I mean, I think of the bumper sticker cliche, free people don't ask for permission. Well, at some point you got to acknowledge that we're not free, that we got guns pointed at us all over the place, the coercion and threats of government limiting our ability to do what we do. And it's sort of like me thinking about, should I pay for a medical cannabis card in Arizona if it means I'm going to give the government less in taxes in the long run? And it's stupid to negotiate. But if you see government as an anthropomorphized evil entity, like a creature, you don't want to negotiate with it. But if you see it as it is, as a more of a complex machine with lots of different actors involved in it, you can kind of negotiate with it or play with it and go, hey, well, if we put $400 in the slot now, we create this corporate nonprofit entity that allows someone who may be a high net worth individual who wants to get out of paying the government tens of thousands of dollars in taxes by donating it to something that they believe in. Well, because we paid that little $400 registration fee to become a C3, if we weren't confident that we would end up giving the government less in the long run by doing it, we wouldn't do it, right?
Yeah. So, I want to address something. I've gotten a few phone calls about this on a personal basis. Guns. Yes, guns. I got my plate carrier in. I'm super fucking excited about that. So I have a plate carrier because I think they're about to ban them. I think they're about to ban the sale. I think in 10 years they're going to ban the ownership, but I think they're become really hard to own. And they could be handy, and this kind of ties in with homesteading. I know that I'm being watched, not because I'm super productive, not because I'm really important, but because the NSA has so much fucking money, and they have nothing better to do, and they have to justify their budgets. So they watch people like me. I'm a Christian. I own guns. I don't like the government. Therefore, when I show
Hold
up
on, hold on, Steven. I got to point out, you're not special. They're watching everybody.
they probably are watching everybody.
No. But it is. What's I say that partly in a joking way, but also to remind everybody that what Steven is talking about. If you're watching this show, you're already You're on some list of extra scrutiny, but they're already watching, recording everything from everybody. And if you trigger them like Steven has and get on a list, you're subject to a distinct level of scrutiny, let's say.
So I just want to get that out of the way. Everybody be like Craig. We need $2,000 ish. So if you want to help develop a website, those costs go a little bit lower. If you want to provide services, those costs go lower. But several hundred of those dollars are going to go to the state of Arizona and to the U.S. IRS to just recognize it. I think that's silly. I really do. And Adam, I am sending the Producers Club right now a link. And this is not really the homesteading stuff, but I do think we should be talking about this. I think everybody should be talking about this. Chattanooga, about a year ago, when everything kicked off, there was a gentleman who saw where this was going, and he bought, the numbers vary, about 50,000 bottles, you see 17,000 there, of hand sanitizer. He bought all the hand sanitizer he could get his hands on, and he started selling it. Okay. He is now being told by the IRS, the U.S. IRS and the Tennessee IRS, that he needs to pay taxes on all of that. Which I think is bullshit, because he bought about 50,000 containers and got down to 20,000-ish and got told, hey, you donate that or we arrest you for something. We'll figure out what the charges are after you're in handcuffs. But it's not right that you do this. They were going to charge him without operating without a business. They were going to charge him with hoarding, with gouging, with all this stuff.
Yeah, a lot of that is, corporate manipulation and bullshit in the existing laws. But part of why this is so, and this is a lot worse right now because it's Karen-virus season. Enough law enforcement agents get harassed by Karens, and they know they have to respond.
I'm going to say this. No, you fucking don't.
Well, okay, fair enough. Yeah. They shouldn't, and they don't. But yeah, that's the effect of Karen bullying.
Yeah.
One of them.
So I left Atlanta, I don't know, 7-8 months ago, because I was afraid the lockdowns were becoming a thing, the curfews were a thing. They were blaming it on coronavirus, they were blaming it on protest. So in Atlanta, it's okay to shoot a guy to death who's not a threat to you, but if you protest, they shut the city down. I've been put into custody a handful of times because they're like, "Hey, there's a curfew." And I was like, "You're not my mom. I'm not 17. Eat my dick."
Well, hold on. Quick question about that, Steven. This is, you're saying a curfew in Atlanta?
Yeah.
No.
So.
Okay. Well, hold on. Follow up. Just, were there exceptions that, like, you could say, I'm here for something that is essential, and if you ever get stopped, out, like, the curfew is basically you can't party on the street, you can't be out, because if you can make it look like you're doing something that you have an exemption for, I'm going to buy food, or I'm going to deliver medicine, or I'm whatever, it's essential, it's an exception of the curfew. Is there nothing like that?
I will send you a link here in just a second. But there was a young couple, I'll say that was driving around Atlanta several miles from the protest. They had their windows smashed in, and they were yanked through the window. They were tased. They were beaten because they violated curfew. The only thing they did wrong is they were on the streets of Atlanta at 9:05. The curfew was at 9, and at 9:05 they said at 9 o'clock. They said we are giving you 5 minutes to comply with orders. You must be inside in 5 minutes. And at 9:05, all hell broke loose.
I just have to say, it's such a weird time that we're living in, where we should be losing our shit as crazy as things are getting. And it's cool to see that most of the people who recognize that we should be losing our shit, in a sense, are also, sort of the calm and rational ones compared to everybody else right now.
So if I send you a link for like a 2-minute video, would you be willing to play that?
Yeah. You want to send the link to the Producers Club?
Yeah, I'll do that.
CJ will get it up. If you want to just talk, introduce it until he's got it ready.
Yeah, so the link I'm about to show shows people that are several miles away. I'm guessing they are 3 or 4 miles away. So all the protests were happening out the south side of the Capitol building. It's kind of where myself and some other protesters and police clashed. And they are on Ponce de Leon. So we're in the heartbeat of the political district. And this is in the Commerce District. This is, you got little 5 Points, you got Murphy's, all kind of subdividing this. And what had happened was a couple of nights previous, Atlanta police officers ran over at the protest by a 4-wheeler. Okay, let's play it.
Atlanta announcing the firing of 2 Atlanta police officers for using excessive force during protest on Saturday night. 3 other officers are on desk duty pending an investigation into it.
Right. This comes from an incident involving 2 college students in a car during the protest in downtown Atlanta Saturday night. We're going to show you video of that incident, and a warning, it is disturbing.
Yeah, now police said they tased the man because they believed he was armed. They didn't say why they believed that, and no weapon was found. One officer reported hearing the word gun 2 or 3 times. As I said, no gun was found.
They were college students, a young man and young woman from nearby college here in Atlanta, and we're just now hearing from the female passenger in that car. She says she is traumatized and disgusted, and that it was the worst experience of my life. That's a quote from her.
So I want to draw a timeline. George Floyd dies on a Monday, I believe. By Friday, there are ongoing protests that are going to last about 3 or 4 weeks. This was smack dab in the middle. This is about 2 weeks in. Now, here's what's interesting. The district attorney charges the officers that tase them with unuse of deadly force. Okay, that's really important.
Unjustified?
Unjustified use of deadly force because of a taser. That's really important to understand, because the protests are going to continue to go on. And then Rayshard Brooks is going to be in a Wendy's parking lot. He's going to get a taser. He's going to then, I'm sorry. So so they used deadly force with that taser. And then they get OR bonded because it is determined that it is undeadly force. A taser is force, so the state comes in and says, no, you can't do that. It's not deadly force. Yada, yada, yada. Blah, blah, blah. This guy now points a taser at them, which we now know is not deadly force. The state has already declared this is not deadly force. Rayshard Brooks points a taser at them and gets shot 4 times in the chest. And I said, fuck it, I'm out. So these kids that are driving down the road get their window smashed in. And so that video you saw is kind of out of date. These police officers were later brought back into the job and given back pay. And one of them was promoted shortly thereafter. But the cool thing about that video is that night is the night that I learned how to break out of zip cuffs. Come at me. So that rolls into I leave Atlanta, and I had met a girl who is right over here. Everybody say hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
So she lives in Northwest Georgia, which is now where I live, just south of Chattanooga. It's very rural, and having the ability to produce my own necessities really allows me to decide who I'm going to work for, when I'm going to work for them,
Yes,
and how much play I'm going to have with the system. So because we're in such a rural environment, I'm able to barter, haggle, do things in an environment here that I can't do in Atlanta. So I don't pay rent. I work my rent off, which means that I don't sign any contracts, which means that my social security number is not being used.
yeah. Stephen, if I can jump in and connect this here, because this is what you're introducing is such an important concept to me and homesteading too, and to me, living by these values and even applying this understanding of the world of the libertarian analysis to live better. It's that when you own your land, your home, your source of life. I mean, to me, this is part of the concept of a homestead or earthships in particular, of being energy independent, being food independent, being water independent, right? And when you have those things covered, work is optional. You know, like, congratulations, you just retired at whatever age you decide, I'm going to buy $5,000 worth of land and build a $20,000 tiny home homestead on it and be as self-sufficient as possible. It really and the other thing is that this motivates me all the more in our cause in a very materialistic sense, and that I want every human on earth to have this. The world is going to be such a better place when this is not UBI. This is not universal basic income as a government allowance and being a part of a centralized system. But this is this achieves the goal of that better. When you get your birthright back, your entitlement as a human being to own a piece of the surface of the earth, a share of the human inheritance, that every human being, and as we dissolve government, will have more than enough money for everybody to achieve this for themselves, at least in a practical way, to say, yes, this is my birthright as a human being, that I can live off the land and apply the latest of human technologies and enough to be independent, so that I can, if I want, and all of my relationships are by choice. They are voluntary, and I get to, like, already in how I live here, push out the coercive relationships and replace them with non-coercive ones. And that's what you were talking about there with the barter, and how you engage with your labor and work and trade with the rest of the world, and that you can get paid under the table. You can trade directly with people without giving the government a cut, without feeding into some corrupt corporate system or banking system, or even using a currency that is used to promote war and the police state and the surveillance state and violating your rights. So
really what I want to do is disconnect. That is the goal. The best tool that I see is homesteading, right? So there's probably a lot of people that are where I was at a year ago, and you're living in an apartment in a urban or suburban set, which is fine. And what I'm going to say is the first thing I did was I got back into shape. I started taking BJJ again, or I started doing BJJ again. And really what that does, at least for me, is it mitigates your desire to interact with law enforcement. And as you develop these skills, it diminishes your desire to interact with any form of government, whether that's a fire department, which I hear people argue against libertarianism with comments like, well, who's going to put out the fires? Who's going to build the roads? Well, first of all, Papa John's has built a few roads, and they're pretty awesome. Second,
Domino's had a whole campaign filling potholes.
Yeah.
But fire protection is such a silly objection because, one, the buildings that we're capable of creating being mostly fireproof, when you get government out of the system that promotes, simple stick frame and gets more to thermal mass based construction, especially in the Southwest, where the adobe is the tradition for a lot of practical reasons, that we're building stick frame houses and spending tons of on-grid energy and fuel to heat and cool them is insane. But yeah, just that all of those shifts are going to make this so much more immediately possible.
Well, I think you're missing a very big aspect. So 70% of U.S. firefighters are volunteer.
Yeah.
So you say, who's going to fight the fires? The same people that are doing it right now.
My point is that that's like it's so insignificant. It's like, who's going to donate to this charity? Like, it's going to be humans' ability to fight fires and protect our homes is way above what we're accomplishing. And you look at places like California, in Oregon, where they screwed up so bad recently with the wildfires. It's only it should be easy to see for most people. It's only because we rely on government systems and approval and zoning and construction and so on and so forth, that these kinds of if fires are any kind of challenge to quality of life.
Yeah. So it is doing things that disconnects you from the system. Now, here's the thing. If you desire to sit in front of a computer all day and go outside 20 minutes a week, that's on you. I don't agree with that. I don't think that's a healthy decision. It's definitely not the way I'm going to live my life. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But as you begin to farm and as you begin to go outside and chop wood and do various homestead tasks, you become a healthier person. You become more aware of your landscape, more aware of your environment. And it's just an all-around better way of life. Now, if you want to live in the city, that's fine. But if you're wanting to disconnect from not society, but from government, I think you're going to be a whole lot better off on 10 acres in the middle of nowhere than you are, I don't know. My apartment in Atlanta was about 480 square feet, and I was paying an outrageous amount of money on it, mostly because of taxes.
Mm-hmm.
So I move out here, and it's pretty easy to avoid taxes. It really is. And then you deal with a small sheriff's department like mine. They don't have the ability to pull people over for nonsense. They don't have the time. So I can drive around. Hey, Jen, how long did you not have tags? Like 4 months?
First time or the second time? First Malibu or second Malibu?
First Malibu.
First Malibu. 8 months.
8 months. 8 months, no tags. No tags, 8 months.
And the car had actually out of state tax.
And so
Second car was.
they don't have the time. Atlanta can call up any government agency and say, send us more money, and they get more money. Dade County calls them and says, can we have more money? And they go, who the fuck are you? You have 20,000 residents. Shut up, stupid. And to that I say thank you. I thank the government for not buying my local sheriff's department a Bearcat.
Well, Stephen, that's a perfect opportunity to transition because I want to give you a chance to comment on these news stories
Yeah, let's do it.
and then bring it back to Homefront Battle Buddies. But is there anything else you want to say before we jump into these headlines?
I would like to be trolled. If the comments were trolled,
Yes. All right, Jim, you hear that? Let's keep the comments coming. All right, but as we get into these news stories, Stephen, your take is appreciated. AmericanMilitaryNews.com videos: rocket attacks on U.S. coalition forces in Iraq, injures U.S. troop. Yeah, yeah, great headline. Kills civilian contractor. I hate to laugh at something legitimately tragic here. Rocket attack struck U.S.-led coalition forces in Erbil, Iraq on Monday, killing one civilian contractor, killing one and injuring six, including an American service member. Not one of our service members. Operation Inherent Resolve spokesman Colonel Wayne Murado confirmed the attack Monday afternoon in a tweet, quote, initial. This is how they're disseminating this information first, isn't it? I'm not saying they shouldn't. It's this weird juxtaposition of primitive militaristic violence
and this
and
is
high technology. Yeah, so just here's the quote. Initial reports that indirect fire landed on coalition forces in Erbil tonight. There was one civilian contractor killed, 5 civilian contractors injured, and 1 U.S. service member injured. More information to follow. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, late Monday statement, quote, we are outraged by today's rocket attack in the Iraqi Kurdistan region. Initial reports indicate the attack killed 1 civilian contractor and injured several members of the coalition, including 1 service member and several American contractors. Okay. Stephen, read anything into this?
I have 2 questions for you about this. First of all, were these rockets purchased with U.S. tax dollars during the Russian invasion? Are these rockets bought for them decades ago that they're now using on us?
I'm pretty sure that if they are funded by U.S. tax dollars, they've got something much more current than that.
Okay. So here's my second.
Come on, man. That's decades ago. How we've been cycling through all the explosive stockpiles in the Middle East. When I was in Fallujah in 2004, actually, well, it was we went to, I think it was an old Iraqi military base southwest of Fallujah. We were posted for a while, and there was a facility where they were destroying Saddam's old stockpiles of conventional munitions. And it's in my book that I'm editing still, hasn't been released yet. And it's some like ridiculous number, like they were blowing up some tens of thousands of pounds of munitions. So they would make like a pile of it twice a day and blow it up. And like everybody in the area knew, hey, you hear a boom at, 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. and, that it's just the EOD guys doing their thing. Yeah, there's newer shit there now. And this is Kurdistan, so who knows? I mean, ISIS has been through there, I believe, and U.S. forces have funded Kurdish forces, or with the skirmishes with Turkey across the border since then. There's a lot going on in this area. They've got fresh munitions.
We have a history of giving our opponents money so that they can then kill us with things that they purchase with our money, or we just give them weapons because fuck yeah, American policy.
Well, if I may rephrase that, the government funds both sides, or the powers behind war fund both sides. It's a common phenomena in the human history of warfare. And right now, the government, the U.S. federal government, through the State Department, the CIA, et cetera, is the mechanism by which that happens in a lot of cases.
So my second question, Adam, when was the last time that an American was killed by a rocket in America? It seems like we want to keep Americans safe, and I use the term American loosely. But if we wanted to keep our people safe, we would just stop sending them to places that fucking hate us.
Well, you know what? Hold on. Wait, so I gotta be like, I think you're using
A lot of statist terminology.
yes, because even they hate us doesn't give them in that statement enough credit to be able to differentiate between the government, the military, and the people of the United States. We confuse these through the propaganda as citizens of the empire, if you want to say we, the American people, but they don't hate us. In fact, even to some extent, they hate the U.S. military. The ones over there who are a little more aware hate the government and the corporate sponsorship and the banking class behind the U.S. military. But most of them are most of the people in the lands oppressed by the U.S. military, by the American empire of the CIA, et cetera, et cetera. I want to give them more credit for being able to differentiate between the American people and the government, of which we are also victims in a sense.
It just seems like the best way to support American troops at this point is to bring them home.
It's
Also,
been true for a long time.
like the best way to protect Iraqi children is to take the antagonist out of the situation. So I don't think that you can make an argument for taking Iraqis out of Iraq, but I do think that if you took Americans out of Iraq, if you took the instigators out of Iraq, then children would see a lot less of what we just saw. One of the, I guess, everybody's got a few images and a few points in times in their life that are just kind of seared in their brain. For me, one of them was the second time I saw a big explosion overseas. There was a little kid who was 9, 10-ish, I don't know, school-age kid who just saw this massive explosion happen, and he didn't flinch because he'd been so adjusted to the fact that I live in a war zone.
Yeah.
And it seems like if we wanted to make his life better, we would leave.
Stephen, this slogan, bring them home, it sounds like it's not going to connect with most of the American people because they don't fundamentally know just how deployed the U.S. military is. And just quick Google search right here. I just very mainstream source, and if anything, the number's got to be higher than this. But I Googled how many U.S. troops currently stationed abroad, and what came up was a Wikipedia article: the United States military deployments. The military of the United States is deployed in more than 150 countries around the world, with more than 160,000 of its active duty personnel stationed outside the United States and its territories. And you go, God damn it, that is the norm. Now, Stephen, I want to connect this to maybe a more personal experience. The next headline, Wall Street Journal, COVID-19 dims job prospects, so young people sign up for the military. Applications are up in Australia, Canada, South Korea, while service members are staying in longer in the U.S. and Israel. Now, sort of a predictable consequence of any engineered economic downturn is that it's going to lead people to more government jobs because those are the essential ones. And those are the ones that can be funded by theft or by inflation, by the creation of the literal inflation of the monetary supply, by creation of money through a central bank. And I hadn't actually considered that this is a part of it right now. And I've long, been a champion of the idea that we are evolving away from militarism, and then it's a good thing that it's the militaries of the world are generally downsizing, and even with technology, maybe not becoming any less deadly, but at least less, I think, less aggressive overall, and less bloated with personnel, less of a diversion of human capital. But right now, it's a huge other negative consequence of COVID that this is a real thing, that people are being all over the world shepherded into working for the military. And one of the economic legacies of COVID, and the whole economic manipulation around it is going to be a re-entrenching of militarism and a setback for human progress towards a peaceful world.
So I 100% agree. I do want to kind of shed some light real quick. You said there's 160,000 people or 160,000 troops abroad. That does not include Triple Canopy, Blackwater,
Right.
any of those guys. So that's 160,000 plus some others.
That does not include U.S. territories or people deployed on bases that are just sort of out there away from U.S. civilian populations as well.
So there's one.
Like I said, it's significantly undercounted a number of ways.
There's 1.3 million.
Even if it's honest in and of itself.
Yeah. So there's 1.3 million active duty troops. So it sounds like 1 in 7-ish are deployed right now.
Something like that.
And then there are 20,000 troops in DC right now. 20,000 ish.
Yeah. Well, you want me? Let me jump ahead to our last story then. On that note, and you can connect this. New York Post has this headline: "Politicians want answers about National Guard's lengthy DC deployment," and it's sort of like, oh, God damn it, we gave them a hammer. Every problem looks like a nail, and this is their excuse now to burn through the Guard funds and to justify budgets. So the story goes: more Republicans are demanding House Speaker Nancy Pelosi brief lawmakers on why thousands of National Guard troops are being kept in Washington, D.C. until the middle of March. Representative Lisa McClain, who sits on the House Armed Services Committee, said Pelosi needed to explain why troops were being kept in the nation's capital when a threat from last month's deadly siege had subsided. And I wonder if Pelosi is in this weird balancing act, because there are some Q people still talking about March 4 is the day Trump comes back, and you're just like, oh my God. But if they kind of have to wait it out, then they're in this weird kind of detente where if Pelosi says, well, we have the troops there because we're afraid we might need them on March 4th, then all the Trump people are going to feel validated.
So I want to point some things out. My military history is this. My dad was retired at 30 years. I got to live in several foreign countries, which kind of, I think, really shaped my political landscape. I served in the Navy. Everything from basic bottom bitch to platoon leader. And when the most important thing you are currently doing is carrying water and food, why are you even there? If there is not a... So without getting conspiracy mindseted or anything like that, this looks like 1984. Like, this looks like they are guarding the emperor, and they are putting several layers of fence, and there's probably ditches, and it's just so... I don't even know what the word is, but this is just very 1984-ish, and this scares the shit out of me, because what is happening is we are taking all of these guys, and we're bringing them there, we're setting them there, or the government is, they're using my money to house these individuals, to move these individuals around, to make it look like there's a threat.
Well, if I may try to draw a gruesome, personalized kind of comparison, and I don't want to pretend like I understand the female experience of rape, but I would imagine that at a psychological level for the country, this is kind of like maybe that moment where a woman on a date goes, oh shit, things might not be consensual from now on.
So,
like, oh shit, I might have to fight this off, or oh shit, this is not someone who respects consent. And I almost wish I could think of a less, another comparison, maybe not as, brutal as a rape or as triggering, but I kind of mean it to be, it's that frightening moment. I mean, maybe when you realize that you're going out with a stranger, and then it turns into a kidnapping. And now this is I think when you say 1984ish, the deeper psychological revelation of what this represents is that it is the removal of the illusion of consent.
So, hey Karen, how old were you?
Craig, hold on, Craig. Another point on this. I like the movie reference to underscore my point. Troops in DC reminds me of the V for Vendetta scene of protecting the Chancellor. Yeah. Thank you, Craig.
How old were you on 9/11?
9/11, 2001. I was in my freshman year of college. I was born in 1982, so I was 19. Yeah.
Okay, so I was 8, and I was living overseas. I guess, were you in California at that time?
Hold on, CJ. Hold on. Tactical point here from CJ. Anyone else notice that they are walking around at condition 4? Now that refers to the posture of the rifle, but I've seen photos of different things. Condition 4 is no magazine in, right?
Oh, good
But
eye.
magazine's on you.
Good eye, CJ.
I believe that's how they're doing it. I don't want to get too far into the parsing apart the tactical terminology here, but my understanding is that their weapons are unloaded, but they have loaded magazines on them. Correct?
That doesn't look like a loaded. That doesn't look like a mag.
No. It's there's the weapons are unloaded, completely unloaded.
Yeah,
But they have loaded, but they have loaded magazines on their body armor.
Which just seems really silly. I don't know why anybody would want to walk around with an unloaded weapon. Like, all of mine are loaded.
It's because they don't trust the troops there. They don't trust them to. They want to say to put a safety in, just a little extra safety mechanism, because it's not a. They don't want. They want them to ask for permission to engage and slow them down, I think. Pasta Yogi investigative reporter writes, "Yay, we got rid of fascism." Yeah. Okay. So
you were 19. Were you in California at the time?
Yeah, I was in college. I remember I was walking back to my dorm bedroom from the showers and walked past a guy who had a TV on and was watching, I think, like a half-hour delayed replay of the towers getting hit.
So you were a freshman, so I take it you were a reservist?
Yes, I was already in the Marine Reserves.
Okay. Did you get activated immediately?
No. In fact, I had a volunteer. My unit didn't get activated until a year or two after I volunteered and went.
So, did they lock down DC?
No. I don't. Wait, do they after 9/11? I don't remember. There was some security posture response after 9/11 because the story was that, I mean, they did crack, allegedly, a hijacked plane hit the Pentagon, and allegedly a hijacked plane intended for the White House landed in Shanksville.
Okay. I don't see anything on a immediate Google search, but I don't necessarily. The incident was on the 6th of January, so we're looking at what, a month and a half-ish? A month and 10 days? I don't think they locked DC down that hard or that long.
Probably not. Yeah, I don't. Well, I remember when they tried to pass the Patriot Act. What's his name? The filmmaker Fahrenheit 9/11, Michael Moore.
Yeah.
Bullhorning around the Capitol, reading out the Patriot Act, and nobody stopped him.
Okay, so what do you think about Pelosi's request for a 9/11 style commission?
Oh, about January 6th? Is that what she's? I missed that. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So she's requesting a 9/11 style commission. So I don't know exactly what she means by that, but she's wanting. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Wow. Man.
McConnell.
Mm.
Mitch McConnell, who, when this distinguished group of House managers were gathered on January 15th to deliver the articles of impeachment, we're told it could not be received because Mitch McConnell had shut down the Senate and was going to keep it shut down until the inauguration. So for him to get up there and make this indictment against the president and then say, but I can't vote for it because it's after the fact that he established that it could not be delivered before the inauguration. Now, when you think about January 6th, between January 6th and January 20th, you're only talking about just under 2 weeks, a day under 2 weeks. So,
Mitch McConnell, think about it.
So,
all right, bring it all together for us, Stephen.
I really feel like what they're trying to do is create a scene that doesn't exist so that they can get funding, so that they can continue to create a scene that doesn't exist so they can get more funding, so that they can create a scene that doesn't exist so they get more funding. And on a political note, if I could just have one more minute, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the lady that organized, I guess, the Stop the Steal rally in D.C. on the 6th, she is District, 11, Georgia representative, which is my district. She's my representative. She's not really allowed to vote right now. They are asking for her to resign.
Mm-hmm.
The Georgia Secretary of State has announced that they are ready for I think he said emergency or off-the-cuff election to replace her. And furthermore, I can send a link in. My representative in the Georgia State House was removed because he refused to get the vaccine.
Wow.
He didn't want to get the vaccine. So I have no representation on any state or federal basis right now because...
Well, no taxation without representation.
I'll take that. But it's just this nonsense that something happened. I was with you. Something happened, and you were like, the only reason they're doing this is to maintain funding. Oh, it was at the LP Georgia rally last year. And it's like all these cop cars are speeding in and out, and it's like they're trying to act like something's going on so they can then go to city council and ask for more money. So they can have more money to act like something's going on, so they can request more money so they can act like... And it's... If there is a actual threat, I'm going to say this. I have had my ass handed to me by Afghanis wearing skirts, robes, and carrying rusty-ass AKs. If you want to keep a population safe, you let them live their life. Because when somebody's living a free and happy life and you fuck with them, they're going to fuck back. It's the concept of the militia.
Yeah, this is turning into a very predictable statist or government response that grows government power, that increases government spending within the existing framework, and at the current point we're at right now is threatening to be about to get a lot worse potentially. And if Pelosi gets a commission and the official recommendation of the commission is a new version of the Patriot Act or something similar, it would be a major setback for America, for freedom, for the world, for humanity. And I think we need to be watching out and see if there is that opportunity to push back.
So they did create the Patriot Act from the 9/11 Commission, but they also created the Department of Homeland Security.
Right.
Do you think that if this goes through, we'll have another department of something? Maybe a department of political security?
Department of Domestic Terrorism. I mean, I don't know, but the collapsitarian in me says I hope it goes through really badly and awkwardly and just encourages California and Texas to secede. But in all of this, Stephen, if you could connect this to Homefront Battle Buddies, I want to ask, how can people donate? We are on the verge of getting at least a website and PayPal set up with just Stephen hacking through it and a couple of volunteers maybe helping out who are getting connected with him. But our goal, we want to get a fully functioning website. We want to get that C3 status. We want to get the bank account and stuff organized as a donation portal through the website. And Stephen's put in a lot of work over the last couple months getting us ready for this. I've just been telling him what to do from a distance, and he's been doing the hard work and getting the organization set up. And we're ready to get to the next level. We need about $2,000. It's not a whole lot to ask, but that gets us to that at least mostly fully functional website, the payment mechanisms, the bank account, and the C3 status, and the chance for. And this is the core mission of Homefront Battle Buddies is to provide a community online and in person with retreats to support veterans exploring means of therapy outside of conventional channels. And that's everything that could possibly cover. So it's a great opportunity, not just to support some of the lesser victims of militarism, the troops coming home, but also to combat militarism by ensuring that veterans who can bring a narrative that challenges militarism instead of drinking themselves into bottles and destroying their lives or committing suicide can be empowered to be engaged in the community so that we can, as a human society, apply the lessons of militarism to put an end to it.
Yeah, so the best way to reach me is my email address, stmcclure29@gmail. Adam, I'm just going to ask you right now, is it possible for me to get a Freedom email for the time being?
Yes, let's do it. So we'll announce this tomorrow. We'll do another plug and put it on here. But yeah, we'll have Stephen at thefreedomline.com. No problem.
Just email me. I'm on Telegram. I'm going to start a Homefront Battle Buddy supporter thing. So if you want to donate money and make some suggestions, that's where you're going to do it. I will send you a link for Venmo, or you can mail us a check or whatever. Right now, here's how this works legally. You can make a donation, and it's good to go. Because we are filing, you're good to go for whatever the tax deduction is, and I'll send you the paperwork at the end of the year for the sum total. But you can just contact me. I'll let you know how to donate for the time being. Part of the website.
Let's just put it like this, Stephen, for now. So if you want to donate in a way and get the tax deduction, Stephen can make it happen. There's a little technical loop, or there's a little technical a handful of things you have to understand, a little process, not a big deal, but where he's at already, we can make that happen.
Make my life easy and make the title Homefront Battle Buddies of the email. Title of the email, Homefront Battle Buddies, and we'll get it going. Thanks you. I appreciate y'all.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Stephen. All right, man, that was a lot of fun. Went a little longer than we wanted, but we did get to those military update stories. That was a lot of fun. Had some great comments. Let's get Comment Jim Freedom up on screen here. Check in with the comments before we sign off for the day. So the blocks, we didn't get to the econ block with the Bitcoin news. Bitcoin hitting 50,000. Elon Musk asking Dogecoin holders to sell most of their coins. Let me just see. There's nothing in here that is sort of immediate headline news. So tomorrow we're going to have a really cool econ block starting with Bitcoin. I guess one we should say today to get out of the way. This is from, Q13Fox.com. And I'm not ready to jump in myself, but I think our audience might want to know. Parler announces it is back online with new hosting service after a month offline. The social media platform Parler relaunched using a new web hosting service. The company announced on Monday, so check that out if you're interested in that. And that's all we have for urgent news. We're gonna have a fun grab bag tomorrow. We're gonna have a fun econ block. And man, we've got Walter block. We've got a Walter block coming on the show Thursday, and I can't resist sharing this, Jim, because there's good news. We are stacking up for Friday. But one of them is, oh geez, where is it? I've got so many. There's space stuff. We're gonna have to do a COVID block on Thursday, I'm afraid. Oh my gosh, where is it? So many stories I have to read to get up on for Friday's show. Man, hold on. Give me just a second. Where? Oh my gosh, where is it? Where did I hide this article from myself? Here it is. World's first flying car that can travel at 100 miles per hour cleared for takeoff. Yep. The Terrafugia transition roadable aircraft has been given the all clear by the FAA in the US of A. It's the world's first flying car. We made it. We're there, people. We'll get into this on Friday. But yeah, just teasing ahead. Jim, any good troll comments? Or does anybody beat the white crayon comment?
I don't, not that I've seen, not yet. I think the last thing that really happened was he triggered people with the 9/11 subject, because that's kind of where the chat evolved into. They're talking, follow the millions, trillions were being questioned at the Pentagon. There's a lot of talk about. Sorry about that.
A lot of talk about.
Sorry about that. Got a phone call from a spam caller, probably the government. A lot of talk about Building 7 and the bullshit behind that. And KB Bear, 12-year fire department firefighter, was found in the tunnel under WTC with a bullet in the back of his head, apparently.
Can we talk about 9/11? Like, okay, without having to get into every conspiracy theory, like we were talking about. I said allegedly, reference to the government myth as a way of understanding what the security posture response at the Pentagon and DC would be. There was something. It wasn't as bad as what we're seeing right now to underscore Steven's point, but that wasn't the point of getting into that.
Yep. I've known it was a Reichstag since 2002. For those that don't know, the Reichstag is a fire in Germany that essentially, it was a national tragedy that gave Hitler's group the power and reason and resources to pass the Patriot Act. It was their national tragedy that was their excuse that was used to take all the power that they took to be able to do what they did. Right? Do I have that right?
They blamed it on communist terrorists, right?
All right. They blamed it on.
Maybe we need to start referring to January 6th as the storming of the American Reichstag. Maybe to prevent it from being used as such, but also to is that the most?
Just to draw a direct correlation, yeah, that could be interesting. It would start a lot of conversations, I'll tell you that right now.
It's not too unfair. If someone is an actual violent, fear-inducing, threatening Trump supporter, they are a communist terrorist, right? Wow. I really got to think about this one, because I don't want to be the, what is it, Godwin's law, that someone's going to jump to Hitler as a comparison eventually with every online argument. Like, this is how we look at what happened on, but yeah. That's a pretty powerful historical parallel. The burning of the Reichstag and the rise of the Third Reich under Hitler in Germany might be the best historical proxy for the false flag insurrection of January 6th. Like Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And I would never suggest that we are about to face the severity of something as deadly as World War II. But I think when history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, it spirals and it goes up. It's progress. We transcend, we get better. Every turn around, every revolution, every time we have to repeat the lessons of history, the viciousness of it gets lessened. And so to think of the burning of the Reichstag giving birth to, Hitler in World War II, and to think of January 6th as something likened to that, it's that it raises the specter of that possibility at a much more scaled down level. Is Biden going to turn into Hitler? No. But is this going to be similarly used as an excuse to possibly create a new phase of government under the lockdowns? If Pelosi gets her commission, are they going to connect this with COVID and say, look, most of these people weren't wearing masks and this was a super spreader event, and therefore we have to do something else that is going to affect every single American? I think that's a pretty safe bet that something like that is going to happen, that this is going to be used as an excuse like that.
The only question I have is whether or not we agree on if Biden is going to become Hitler, so to speak, not literally, obviously. But I'll say this, in 20, 30, 40 years, whoever's still here and the dominant faction, the story that's told about Biden will make it sound like Hitler, I think. 40-something orders in the first day, you know what I mean, executive orders and whatnot. He was just the way they have the Democratic rule over the House and the Senate, you know what I mean. It's going to be told like this is the year that the really super evil side took over and went crazy, and 20 years, hopefully sooner than later we can get him out of the way. But when it's told in history books, it's going to be like these motherfuckers just went crazy. This guy was Hitler. They're gonna be showing videos of him sniffing people and doing all kinds of crazy shit. And they're gonna say, yeah, somehow this motherfucker was the leader. Exactly. Point made. He had to fucking put himself there through ridiculous conspiracies we can't even imagine, because it's just not real. But back to my original point, you don't think in 20, 30 years they're gonna paint Biden out to sound like Hitler?
I don't know if he's going to be that differentiated from Trump or the president who follows him, and I don't know that even if January 6th parallels in nature the burning of the Reichstag, that it would lead to something that's even more significant than COVID. I don't think it will. I think, what comes if let me, I mean, and this is a hard thing to predict. How bad is the growth of government, the government response, the crackdown on freedom going to be as a result of what happened on January 6th? How much of it will it be used as an excuse for more government? And it's not going to be as big as the Patriot Act. Or at least it's unlikely. I think that's outside of the meat of the bell curve, that possibility. It could be, right? And you could say that over the years, the Patriot Act has been far more impactful than COVID, but it's a bit of an apples and oranges thing. But compared to if 9/11 gave us the Patriot Act and and the global war on terror and everything along with it, what could January 6th give us? It's such a scale smaller. I don't think it could be used for something bigger. There will still be an outsized response, but by the sort of parameters of the system, it couldn't be bigger than the growth of government that was directly attributable to 9/11.
Well, I mean, I see what you're saying in reference to like percentage of how much it grows. You know what I'm saying? But it is going to be worse because it's on top of, all this stuff that's happened with COVID has been made possible because we had suffered through the Patriot Act, and they have the power to do all this shit and write all these orders and make all these dictates. You know what I mean? So it's we went from, I mean, I don't want to say free before the Patriot Act, but we went from Unknowing. I think the Patriot Act raised our awareness about what's going on, and this, it won't raise it as much. It's not as impactful. I know where you're going with that. 9/11 was a scale more than the 6th. It's almost like they're trying so
Okay,
hard
yeah,
to
but
make something out of the 6th that's
so we
not
say it's
really
on
a
top
thing.
of, but that contradicts at least my general narrative of human progress, and I would say that while 9/11 was an excuse for so many things, I think it was like, there was a response and then it fades. The troops in Afghanistan and Iraq are much lower than they have been historically. The number of troops overall deployed around the world, I believe, are a lot lower than sort of the, peak of the global war on terror. So I think we've still made significant progress, but this is like a major step back one way or another. We're gonna have to come back to this, Jim.
Yeah, fair
So
enough.
did any comment beat the white crayon? Because I think we're gonna go with that one.
No, the white crayon's the winner. So I think that was Reefer Madness, and he should email me at jim@freedomline.com.
All right. I'm gonna tell him what he's won.
You have won access into the Producers Club. That is the private chat for our show here at Versus the Man. Excuse me, I apologize. Everyone that's watching right now has access to the public channel, which can be displayed right here, t.me versus Adam / Adam versus the Man. That's the public channel, but Reefer Madness just won access into the private Telegram channel. So that's awesome. Email me, jim@thefreedomline.com. I'll get you set up with that. If you don't feel like being like Reefer Madness and trying your hardest to win one of these contests, then you want to just buy your way, access way with $10 a month, you can go to adamversustheman.com. as adamvstheman.com. Click on the Patreon button, and the $10 a month is where it's at. That's the sweet spot to get you access into what Reefer Madness just won for free. So check that out. Check out the different levels of support, and then go back to adamversustheman.com and check out the store that CJ has put together for us. You got plenty of cool items with all of our logos on it. Adam vs. Man logo, the Freedom logo. I got some Jim vs. the Man shirt in there. You can have fun looking around. Plenty of products to check out. Don't forget Producers Club members and better patrons get 15% off and free shipping every single order. So that's awesome. Go back to adamversustheman.com once again to check out cigarfederation.com. That's our affiliate program. You can check out all their exotically flavored cigars. Awesome selection there. I recommend you check it out. I recommend the JSK Nugs. They're infused with CBD. CBD is good for health, good for life, so check that out. Promo code Adam10 gets you 10% off your entire order there. That's cigarfederation.com. You can find them through our website, adamversustheman.com. And then lastly, if you're on Instagram, check out @the Garden of Freedom. That's where you can keep up with everything that Adam has been up to up there in Gardenia over the last year or so, and going forward. You can see Marilyn has caught herself a live rabbit in the most recent picture. So check that out at the Garden of Freedom on Instagram. With that,
Awesome.
you got any
Thanks,
good
Tim.
news for us?
Yes, on this day in history from goodnewsnetwork.org, it was 1,421 years ago today, Pope Gregory the Great decreed that saying, "God bless you." God bless you should be the immediate response whenever someone sneezes, according to History.com. On this day in 1857, Gallaudet University received its U.S. funding charter as an educational institution, becoming the first school for the advanced education of the deaf and hard of hearing in the world. On this day in 1859, the A note above middle C was standardized to a frequency of 435 hertz by French law. On this day in 1918, Lithuania defied the German Empire and declared its independence, governed by democratic principles with Vilnius as its capital. On this day in 1923, British Egyptologist Howard Carter unsealed the treasure-filled burial chamber of the pharaoh Tutankhamun. Later, he ensured the artifacts remained in country in the National Egyptian Museum. On this day in 1947, Canadians were granted Canadian citizenship after 80 years of being issued British passports. On this day in 1968, the first 911 emergency phone system was instituted by officials in Haleyville, Alabama. And on this day in 2005, the Kyoto Protocol came into force following Russian ratification. And I would hardly call this good news, but it was 217 years ago. American U.S. Navy Lieutenant Stephen Decatur led a successful raid into Tripoli Harbor to burn the USS Philadelphia, so the captured ship, which had fallen into pirate hands, could not be used against them during the First Barbary War. And of course, this is where we all, as Marines, know the line, to the shores of Tripoli. Thanks for tuning in to Adam vs. Man. Please share this episode and tell people about why you listen. I'm your host, Adam Kokesh. Our co-host is Comment Jim Freedom, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. Marcus Pulis is our guest booker out of Indiana, and from South Dakota, CJ Abernathy is our executive producer. Mwah, peace and love, y'all. Choose happiness and be excellent to each other.